We want to thank you, everyone that's here, for your contribution to purchase this collection, which we did discover by accident and good intent by the auctioneer's office in Essex calling us back there in August of last year that this collection was available. And we also want to thank the Sudbury Cultural Council and the Sudbury Foundation. George F. Moore was 20 years old when he enlisted with his father's permission in the Civil War in 1862. He enlisted for 3 years. He didn't get a furlough and served for more than 3 years, straight through 1865 and the end of the war. He participated in the battles of South Mountain, Antietam, Fredericksburg, Jackson, Mississippi, Knoxville, Tennessee, the Wilderness, Spotsylvania, Cold Harbor, James River, and Petersburg, and wrote his mother, father, brother, and sister in vivid detail through the years as they also wrote him. The father, the mother, and the brother and the sister all lived in the same house, and then the sister moved to Marlborough, where she was writing letters from. You will hear mentions of Copperheads. Copperheads were people that believed that the Union should dissolve. They were sympathizers with the South, or in many cases they were neutral, but they weren't helpful to the Union cause, and they might be your next door neighbor. Some of these letters relate to Copperheads being next door. The Goodnow Library it had just been built in 1862. You'll hear about that from a viewpoint perhaps unique. The arsenal that you'll hear about was the Watertown Arsenal that they make reference to. Rufus Hurlbut is the young man that served with George Moore that is made reference to. Rufus Hurlbut is Natalie Eaton's grandfather, and the hat that young George is wearing here in the middle is Rufus Hurlbut's hat that he wore during the Civil War. Francis is George's brother, and the office that you'll hear about is the local telegraph office. Before the railroad came in, they had simply a telegraph office. At this point, we don't know where it was. I believe it was in the South Sudbury. And a canister is a metal container filled with odd pieces of metal that was used to shove down a cannon snout there. The display which you'll be unveiling it shows you how from one pile of letters all sorts of information are coming from, and hopefully there will be a book drawn from these letters. But the references the different letters make, we have to follow up like a detective story. So this is an ongoing detective story, following up the references that are made in the letters to other letters of other people writing him, or he writing to someone here in Sudbury. So there's much more work to be done to collect all of the letters that we believe are out there in someone's attic, perhaps. So now we're starting in 1862. Just a minute.
Sudbury, September 17, 1862. Dear George, I sent a letter to you and Albert, expecting you were both at the same place, but found out a few days after that you had moved with the regiment and left him behind. I hope he is able to join you by this time. According to the reports in the newspaper, you know what it is to be in a battle. We are very anxious to learn the particulars about it. I hope we shall not hear anything but good news. We have had one letter from John since you left home. He spoke about seeing you. He He said it seemed good to see you and the other boys from Sudbury. I think it must have been a happy meeting for you and him, too. He writes that he is unwell and discouraged. I hope he will feel better soon. He had met with a great deal to make him feel bad of late, but seeing the rebels driven back will put new life into him, I think. The 9 months men started for camp today. The Sudbury and Framingham boys have joined and gone together. The girls went over to see them start. They will tell you about it when they write to you. You did not have much respect shown you when you started for camp, but you have the credit of being among the first to answer the call of your country. I hope it will not be long before the rebellion will be put down and the war will come to an end. What glorious news that would be. From your loving mother, M.H. Moore.
Sudbury, September 25th, 1862. Dear brother, I now sit down to write you a few lines I have been experiencing. I would have a letter from you before this time. We have not any of us had a letter from you for some time. We have had 2 letters from John this week and one from Albert. They have all written to you since we have received a letter from you. All the way we have known whether you was well or not was by Mr. Bailey. He wrote home that the boys were all well. The 35th Regiment gets a good deal of praise. There is something in the paper most every night about it. It is stormy Sunday, and I did not go to meeting, and so I thought I must write to you. I made a lot of turnovers yesterday. You and Albert may have one plateful if you will go to the buttery to get them. I wonder if you remember how you used to tease me if you found any cake or pie. If you was where I would send it to you. I would send you some every week. I might send you a ginger snap and a letter. What if it should get miscarried and opened? Would I not laugh? Well, so I guess I shall wait till I have some other way to send. Write to me as soon as you can, and I will answer, for you have not written to me at all. From Mary.
Sudbury, October 3rd, 1862. Dear George, I received yours of the 5th of September. Glad to hear from you and that you are well and start your journey so well. I have wrote to you since, but have not received anything from you since, though I have heard from you since that you have not been in a battle. Was Albert? But your regiment was in that big battle of Wednesday and done themselves great honor. It seemed too bad to have to go into battle so soon after setting out there and to be so many killed and wounded. Your father.
Sudbury, Friday, October 3rd, 1862. Dear brother, the 36th Regiment is praised by everybody for its steadiness under fire and gallantry during the fight. Being a new regiment and not drilled at all, it is a wonder that they have done so well. I was sorry to hear that Colonel Wild had to have his arm amputated. I don't wonder Albert was glad to join the regiment after being left behind, sick. And then the long march without any news from the boys. There was quite a rush of persons anxious to get exempt from being drafted on account of disability. During the sittings of the surgeons appointed to make examinations in the state of Marlborough, the first day the surgeon examined 60 persons, and everyone got exempt by paying the fee of $1 each. Certain persons in Sudbury also got exempt who are as able-bodied as anybody I know of. I think of the whole thing as a regular humbug. The folks are all well, and I hope this will find you. I hope this will find you the same. Remain yours, Francis U. Moore.
Orleans, November 7th, 1862. Dear Father and all the rest, it is a stormy day, a regular snowstorm. It has snowed all day. It fell to the depth of 2 inches, and it is awful cold. We have to build large fires and then build our tents around them to keep warm. We make out to keep quite warm. When we march, we have our great coats on to keep warm. I don't know as we shall have to go on short allowance until they catch us again. The general rode through our regiment today and told us to be saving our bread for the train, had not got up with us yet, and he didn't know how soon it would. That is consoling this stormy day. I remain your loving son, George.
Sudbury, January 3rd, 1863. Dear brother, Mother and I sent a package to you and Albert this morning by mail. It contains some dried apples, sugar, tea, pepper, 2 dairies, and some paper and envelopes. And we want you to let us know whether if it all arrived safe. If the railroad comes through Sudbury, real estate would have a rise. I don't think it would go through the village because that library building would be in the way, unless they took it for a switch house. The village folks are rather ashamed of the building. I hear, and perhaps would give something to have it moved up in town, if it could be. But the center folks would not consent, probably. John Goodnow must have been a little out of his head, or he would have devised a larger sum for the building of such a library. If it had been located in the center of town, if it had been located in the center, the town, I think, would have granted it an addition and had a credible building. I will close with the hope that this will find you well. Francis.
Sudbury, January 22nd, 1863. I wish you could have been at home at Thanksgiving to have cooked dinner with us. It was such a Thanksgiving as I never experienced before, to have so many absent. Although we had a good supply of the luxuries of the land and those vacant seats at the table. I hope I shall see you all at home before next Thanksgiving, sound and well, and this rebellion put down. Your father.
Marlborough, May 31st, 1863. Dear brother, I have been writing to Albert and thought I would write to you also. I am well and hope this will find you the same. There's not much going on here any more than in Sudbury. I've got to my home for the summer, I suppose, and if I like, or well as I have the 3 weeks that I have been here, I shall be contented. They seem to think a good deal of me. Mr. Lyman, Meeker's father and mother and brother live here in the other part of the house. I call them Grandpa and Grandmama, and Billy, Lyman's brother, and myself are getting along nicely. He wants to go down to Sudbury some night and have me go with him, and get Hattie. We will have a ride. He came up and brought me home election night, and he got me, and we got him in, and we had a ride, and he thinks he would like another. He has been to war, and he got wounded in the foot. He came home last winter. He has been on crutches ever since till last week. He has got so he can go with a cane. I calculate to have some good times if I stay here this summer, and I guess I shall. From your loving sister, Mary E. Moore.
Crab Orchard, Kentucky, September 19th, 1863. Dear brother, I received your letter a few days ago and was very glad to hear from you and to hear that you are well. I am glad you didn't have to come out here, for I think 3 out of our family is enough. If it is not, let us do double duty. Well, this draft will make a great many show their patriotism. I am glad I came out when I did. I am not sorry I came yet, although I have been discouraged about the war, but I think there is some prospect of its closing now. Give my love to all the folks and friends, write soon, and all the news. From George. Crab Orchard, Kentucky, September 30th, 1863. Dear Mother, I believe we are here to start for Knoxville, Tennessee tomorrow. It is nearly 200 miles from here, so we shall have quite a tramp of it. Most of the way is over the mountains. Some of the officers have sent home for their folks to come out here, and they are on the way now. But they will have to go home again, without seeing their husbands and fathers. I should like to get a furlough, but I suppose I shall have to wait my turn, which may not come for 2 years. What is going on in Old Sudbury now? Do they have anything there to keep the place alive? How does the library get along? Do Middletown folks go down there, or do they get along without them? Books. I want to see that building. From your loving son, George. Camp near London, Kentucky, October 6th, 1863. Dear Father, yesterday we traveled 8 miles in 2 hours and 40 minutes. That is the fastest traveling we have ever done. We had to carry our knapsack with woolen and rubber blankets, overcoat, shirts, stockings, and a few trinkets. Had 8-day rations, 40 round of ammunition, canteen full of water, and gun and equipment. The whole weighing about 50 to 60 pounds. The Sudbury boys are all well, except Mr. Garfield, and Harry Hall, they are back to the hospital. From your loving son, George.
Sudbury, October 25th, 1863. Dear George, we are getting along very comfortably. The labors of myself and the labor of the old horse has supported the family pretty comfortably so far with what you boys have done for us. Although everything has been very high, we have had to buy, and I think we shall get through the winter very comfortably if we remain well. I've got pretty much through with my harvesting, had good crops, plowed up about 1 1/4 acres of the land. Last spring, planted about 2/3 of it in corn and potatoes. Sold besides the corn and potatoes enough for the family to eat through the season until the crops come again, if they come as usual. And turnips, beets, beans, cabbage, cucumbers, squash, pumpkin, tomatoes, watermelons, sweet corn, and peas. Sold about $30 worth, besides of the 1 1/4 acres. Pretty much all the amusements we have here is temperance meetings and temperance lectures. The library is a pretty successful thing so far. The copperheads say but a little. I will close after stating that it is reported you have had a promotion in the company. I'm glad to hear that you have done yourselves honor so far. I hope you will be spared to do more good. Write as often as you can. We are all well and hope this will find you well. From your father.
Knoxville, Tennessee, on December 6th, 1863. Dear Mother, on November 29th, Longstreet attacked our left this morning about 3 o'clock and was driven back with a heavy loss. He tried to take the fort on the left. It was garrisoned by Lieutenant Benjamin's regular battery and part of an Ohio battery. The 1st Division was in the rifle pits around the fort. They had a lot of telegraph wire strung along on the stumps in front of the pits, so when the Johnnies came up, they tumbled over it. Then our boys let them have it. They piled the dead up in heaps. General Sereno fell back and let the Rebs come up to the fort. Then Lieutenant Benjamin poured the grape and canister into them. He let them come up so near that he lit the shell and threw them out among the rebels with his hands. One rebel officer came in and put his hand on a gun and told Benjamin to surrender. The gun was loaded, so Lieutenant Benjamin fired and killed 11 men. Our whole loss in the fight was reported at 17 men. The rebels' loss was about 1,000. We took 200 prisoners. There is no firing today. The rebels are burying their dead. I forgot to state that the Sudbury boys were all right. Give my love to all. From your loving son, George.
Sudbury, December 27, 1863. Dear Albert and George, I received a letter from each of you last evening and was rejoiced to hear from you. We have been to the office every night for a long time, but could get no tidings from you. I tried to look on the bright side and think it was because the communication was cut off. Still, I could not help feeling very anxious about you. for I know there had been a dreadful battle out there, and the paper said the 35th Regiment were in the fight. There has been 1 or 2 marriages here since I wrote to you. Smith Jones and Juliet Johnson were married a few days ago, and Laura Moore is married to a gentleman by the name of Bowen. She got acquainted with him at the Arsenal. I believe he works there now. From your ever-loving mother, Mary H. Moore.
Sudbury, June 3rd, 1864. Dear brother, a letter from Alfred came last night. He is at the NS General Hospital, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He says that he was sent there quite lately, arrived there last Sunday morning, I think. Says that many of the wounded are sent there to their own states, and thinks that he stands a chance of being sent to Massachusetts. Says that his side is getting along first rate. His hand is nearly healed up. I guess that his side was hurt more than he stated in his letters home. Says that he can't get any better care than he has there, and has the best to eat. He's anxious to hear from the rest of the boys, and so are all the rest at home. Pleasant weather and prospects of good crops, and also abundant of fruit here. Hoping this will find you all well, I will close. F.U. Moore.
Near Petersburg, Virginia, October 4th, 1864. My dear mother, I am with my company again, as you will see by the heading of this. I arrived here last night. October 6th. I just got to writing the other day, and the Johnnies attacked our picket line and drove in the picket, and I had to leave my writing and go into the pits. I was in the tent with Mr. Campbell of Wayland. He packed up our things and had just gone out of the tent as a shot from the Red battery passed through it at about 2 feet from the ground. I had been out about 3 months and thought that was a good reception for my first day. Give my love to all, and write soon. From George.
Our home, Danville, Livingston Country, New York, October 9th, 1864. Dear brother, I came out here about August 17th and have been in this institution about 7 weeks now. I came here to get the benefit of this water cure, to hear the lectures by Dr. Jackson before the institution, and to learn all I can. There are now about 150 persons here, male and female. You will please excuse this short letter, as it is against the advice of the doctors that I congest my brain with writing at all. Dr. Jackson gives us a sermon this afternoon in the hall. I tell you he's a bully in almost everything. I will close hoping that this will find you well. Francis.
Sudbury, April 13th, 1865. Dear George, your mother received a letter from you last night stating that the Sudbury boys were all right. This letter was dated the 6th instant. Was very anxious to hear from you and Albert and to know that the Sudbury boys came out of the last great and glorious struggle all right. The greatest excitement ever was known, I think, prevailing here in Massachusetts about this time when the news came on Monday that Lee had surrendered with all his forces. People seemed to run mad with joy. Bells rung, cannons are firing, steam whistles are whistling in all directions where there was an engine. Dinner bells rung and horns blowing and all sorts of noises that could be made and the stars and stripes thrown to the trees wherever there was any to be had. Your father.
Sudbury, April 30th, 1865. Dear George, I believe I haven't answered the last letter I received from you, and as I ought to have done before now, but that letter did a great deal of good. It contained the first tidings about the Sudbury boys after the late battles and relieved a great many anxious hearts. I hope we shall not hear of any more battles to feel anxious about. The Rebs have surrendered, but it seems they are not quite satisfied. They want to destroy our government some way. How dreadful it seems to think such a dear, good man as President Lincoln should lose his life by the hands of an assassin. When we first heard of his death, almost everyone felt as though our country was undone. But we feel differently now. It was wrong to place so much dependence upon man, for Mr. Lincoln was only an instrument in the hands of God to carry out this great work which has been accomplished. And his death reminds us that we look above this world for help in these days of trial. It seems sad to think poor Francis can never come home again. I little thought when he went away he was going to die. I could see his health had failed some, but thought he might live a number of years, but did not expect he would ever enjoy good health. He suffered very much with a distressed feeling in his head, which sometimes made me fear he would lose his reason if he didn't get help. But his sufferings are ended now, and I hope he is better off than to be here. It was hard to part with him, but God knows what is best, and we must try to be reconciled to his will. Although I have passed through a great trial, yet I have much to be thankful for, and I hope I shall prize the blessings I enjoy. From your loving mother, Mary H. Moore.
Alexandria, Virginia, May 12, 1865. Petersburg was a splendid city. Not a very large one, though. The inhabitants were very poorly off for everything. A great many of the first families were glad to ask the Yankees for bread the first day we went through there. They kept in their houses. I heard some of them say they were never so surprised as they were to see our army go through the place. The women seemed to have just 2 suits of clothes. One very nice one that they wore Sundays. The next day we would see the same ones dressed in a dirty, ragged dress and no hoops. I pity those that were forced into the rebellion, but the others I haven't much pity for. It is hard for anyone, but they made their own bed, took their own choice, and they have got to take its reward. I think the South has learned a lesson in this war that they will not easily forget. Write again as soon as you get a chance, for you may not have a chance to write much more before I see you all. From your affectionate son, G.F. Moore. Tomorrow is my birthday. Alexandria, Virginia, May 14th, 1865. Dear brother, I received your letter a few days ago and was very glad to hear from you. I meant to have answered it yesterday, but Rufus wanted me to go to Mount Vernon with him, so I went. Mount Vernon was General Washington's place. It was worth going to see. It is about 6 miles from here. We walked down. I suppose it was considered a splendid place in its day, and in fact it is as handsome a place as there is around here now. I went through the house and gardens, also to Washington's tomb. I guess nearly the whole of our corps has been there. I have sent some magnolia leaves from the tree that Washington planted near his house. I will send one in this. Tell Mother to put it with the other things we have sent home. I think she said she had a number of things that we have sent. Perhaps if she keeps them, we may tell something interesting about them when we get home. There is considerable talk of our getting home soon, but I don't know whether to think so or not. We may get home before our time is out, but not for some time yet. We are going to have a review today, so I have not time to write much more. Yesterday was my birthday, 23 years old. Only think of it. Shall be an old batch soon. Al comes pretty near it, don't he? I laugh at him about it. I'll close now. Give my love to all. Write soon and tell me all that is going on in town. From your brother, George.